Utopia
isn't a utopia.
nu este doar utopia.
Utopia
N'est pas une utopie.
It's a reality. Utopia nu este una utopia.
Utopia är ingen utopi. Utopia är
È una
realast.
realtà.
Utopia ist keine Utopie. Utopia ist
uma realidade.
Realität.
É uma realidade.
Hello everyone, welcome in this full house. I see a lot of smiling faces. That's a pleasure to meet you and a pleasure to be here and join you together. My name is Annabel van Nieuwenhuizen and I will be spending this academic opening together with you. Bienvenue, soyez les bienvenus. Hartelijk welkom, herzlich willkommen. Welcome in all the languages of Utopia, this European alliance that we are celebrating today as well. Is everybody fine? Everybody found a seat? Everybody is comfortable? Yes? Anyone wants a round of applause before we applaud our special guests? Put your hand up. Oh, everybody wants. Yeah, okay. It's good to start like that because you're going to applaud a lot of other people, but of course they are representing the efforts that you are doing as well. So it's all for you, of course, this special day. Few people missing here, so let's introduce them to celebrate together Europe, to celebrate together the new renaissance we all are waiting for to make Europe a better place and the world a better place, and to talk about Utopia, this alliance of 10 European universities here present. We're really pleased to have you here in Brussels. So let's welcome the rectors of the 10 universities, preceded by the rector of Vrije Universiteit Brussel, Jan Dankaert. And the chair of Utopia, Tiziana Lipiello. Followed by the chair of the board, Karsten de Klerk, the vice rectors of VUB, vice rectors and other representatives of the university, Rector Federica Mogherini, Rector of the College of Europe and the rectors of other universities, General Director of Erasmus Hogeschool Brussel, the student representatives of VUB and of Utopia, and the speakers of today. Welcome. So today's ceremony will be in the sign of Europe, the European Universities of Utopia. It is Utopia, this European alliance that we want to enlighten today, and that brought us together in this hemicycle. And so let's look at an introduction on what this Utopia can mean.
Universities seek fertile, visionary and innovative excellence in higher education and research to change the present, crafting a better future.
Utopia is an alliance of student-centered, inclusive and open universities.
We are very committed to our European values.
Inclusão, sustentabilidade e democracia.
And also open science and research available to public society, to civil society.
In academia, we have ideas and we have also ways to implement them. And science diplomacy is one of these ways. It's a tool, but it's also a purpose in itself to say, okay, global challenges, global solutions for that. Listen to us and maybe the world will be better tomorrow.
All these concepts are great, but wait until you hear the numbers. Almost 300,000 students, 23,700 academic staff, 17,800 support staff, 874 research groups, 139 faculties connected through 200 communities of all kinds, PhD co-tutels, science and innovation fellowships, Young Leaders Academy, connected communities, And it's only the beginning.
We have a possibility for both students and researchers and academics as such.
Et aussi pour l'ensemble des acteurs de nos territoires qui sont engagés, qui sont invités à s'engager dans cette famille, cette belle famille que nous appelons Utopia.
And this interaction is something that really not just adds a value to your own university's life, but it also creates new perspectives, new horizons.
A ideia é que daqui a 7 ou 10 anos podemos atuar como se fosse uma meta-universidade europeia com 10 campos diferentes espalhados em posições estratégicas na Europa.
The long-term strategy is to become united as a real European university and
to create a Utopia College, which includes all the education programs that we are doing, and a Utopia Global Institute, which encompasses all the activities that we are doing in research, innovation and outreach to society.
Este o aventură, dar în același timp este și o oportunitate. O aventură pentru că în cadrul Universității Babes-Voiei studenții au posibilitatea de a se conecta la diferite entități europene.
Che possano anche loro partecipare sempre in numero più alto a questa esperienza.
Kära studenter, ta nu och ta möjligheterna att läsa och vara med i aktiviteter i Utopia. 10 härliga lärosäten.
That was a clear message. Utopia is about the added value of the connection between all those universities. And they are represented by all of us, but also by the chair of the board of Utopia. She's the rector of the Ca' Foscari University of Venice, Venezia in Italia. Here is, please welcome her, Tiziana Lipiello.
Geachte Autoritäten, geachte collega's, geachte studenten, bedankt voor jullie aanwezigheid. Gentili autorità, care colleghe e cari colleghi, care studentesse e cari studenti, grazie per essere qui con noi. Distinguished authorities, dear colleagues, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your presence today here. We gather together to mark the opening of the academic year 2023-2024 at the European Parliament, a venue of great significance for us. The 10 Utopia European University join here in solemn unity. The genesis of the Utopia lies in our enduring belief in a unified European identity. Our institutions, in fact, embody the European spirit and its values. This ancient idea of a coherent form of being and way of living throughout a continent was first glimpsed in Greece before moving to Rome and spreading throughout Europe. However, the major transformation of the European identity occurred between the 13th and 14th century, leading to the European scientific and economic rise, and explaining its astonishing influence between the 15th and the 20th centuries. It makes sense to recall here the two factors that drove this transformation. First is the invention of the university in Europe in the Middle Ages as a specifically European institution, and the intellectual, cultural, and spread of continuous technological innovation, and that followed. The second is the promotion by Italian and Flemish merchants at the very end of the Middle Ages of the conceptual combination of growth and confidence, that is, the transition from a world in which the fear of death prevailed to a world in which everything would be better tomorrow, which is a very powerful drive for our societies until today. Europe then became the idea of haven of culture and civilization, echoing the concept of a utopic republic of letters, sciences, and arts that inspired scholars from Erasmus and Voltaire. It envisioned a harmonious space for the free exchange of ideas, freed from political, social, and religious constraints. Today, our alliance, as part of a European higher education and research area, aims to redefine the European identity in a contemporary context. We need cohesion and hope for the future and for our students and future generations. Our alliances are ambitious initiatives, as the Commission Vice President Skinas said at the recent Forum of European University in Barcelona. European alliances are not a project, they are a transformative process. The collaboration is important in this historical moment to tackle the challenges in a world that has become dark and insecure, unquote. Utopia represents something far more substantial and ambitious than a project. Establishing the Alliance legal entity aligns with this vision, marking another milestone. A legal status represents a significant step toward consolidating our long-term cooperation. In our complex world, society faces intricate issues that exceed linguistic, disciplinary, national, and cultural boundaries. And amid economic stress and political unrest, the aftermath of COVID-19, the Ukraine conflict, and the consequences of climate change, university must deliver research and educational excellence and have answers and solutions. Universities hold a distinct responsibility as designer of a new knowledge and incubators for the next generation of global citizens. In Utopia, we fully agree with the words pronounced in the Barcelona Forum by Josep Garrel, president of the European University Association, when he said, "Quite a big number of universities in Europe are fully engaged in the initiative, so we all need that this initiative is a success." And it means that the different governments in Europe, the regional, the national, and the European, together with the universities, should work hand in hand for addressing the challenges that are arising. You, the different national government, the European Commission, can count on us. For the benefit of our students, we have co-created a flexible framework bridging research and education through innovation, encouraging engagement with alternative credit recognition mechanisms, with a particular emphasis on micro-credentials. We have called this pedagogical model COLECO, Connected Learning Communities. Utopia More, the second phase of our alliance, commits to transforming university structures, practices, and culture to foster inclusivity and excellence. Inclusive governance will shape a higher education model based on 5 core practices encapsulated in the Utopia More Inclusion Manifesto. First, co-creating the alliance with students, staff, and stakeholders. Building inclusive mindsets, empowering the community to promote inclusion, respect, and dignity. 3, design inclusive environment in our curricula, research programs, and research culture. 4, have a process approach to change. 5, and most important, accountability and transparency, monitoring and reporting on the implementation of these practices. The human foundation is essential for fostering innovation and the forward-thinking concept of a European university. For many of us, Utopia has transcended today the status of an addendum to our regular activities. It has become our daily routine. Furthermore, academic and administrative colleagues from our partner university have become our everyday colleagues. Concrete results of the Alliance include the connected learning communities, which I quoted before, involving more than 5,000 students, more than 200 staff members in the first 4 years. This initiative is evolving into integrated communities, focusing on teaching and research, bridging academia and society. We also have the Young Leaders Academy, a PhD co-tutel program offering PhD fellowships of 3 or 4 years, co-supervised by academics of 2 different Utopia universities. So far, we have more than 40 young leaders, and we manage more than 60 PhD co-tutel projects. And several other programs, such as Utopia Transforming Research and Innovation, which contributed to the shaping of a common research and innovation agenda for our alliance, Utopia Science and Innovation Fellowship Program, supporting 76 postdoc fellowship over 4 years, a program called FlexLab on flexible learning communities, supporting lifelong learning across borders, and the Utopia Health, Empowering Widening University in Utopia Alliance to foster academic excellence in health. Other projects born thanks to the Alliance are EUTOPIA, an international bachelor program in economics, Duramat, a Marie Curie doctoral network in manufacturing, EdLab, a joint Erasmus Plus with 3 other alliances on piloting a European degree level, Whale, an Erasmus Plus Jean Monnet module, EU Lead for All, an Erasmus Plus KA2 cooperation partnership, and so forth. Student initiatives include the Career Ambassadors, Teamwork, the Be Utopian Conference, and the Student. Our alliance has secured 45 million euros from the European Commission since 2019, complemented by additional funding from member states, but not enough, and co-funding by all partner universities. And Utopia also benefits from the involvement of our global partner from Africa, Asia, and Australia. Monash University, the International University of Rabat, Stellenbosch University, Kyungpook National University. These partners have been actively contributing to our activities. I can't end this already too long speech without mentioning our enthusiasm at finally seeing the talks between the United Kingdom and the European Union come to a successful conclusion. The return of our UK friends, the University of Warwick, to Horizon Europe in 2024. In fact, they never left us. We look forward to renewing our high-level research partnership with them. In closing, for all the work accomplished until now, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Presidents, our Secretary General, Mattia Bellotti, the Vice Presidents, and the dedicated academic and administrative personnel across the 10 universities. In the name of the University Babes Bolyai, Ca' Foscari University of Venice, CY Cergy Paris University, the Dresden University of Technology, the University of Gothenburg, the University of Ljubljana, the Nova University Lisbon, the Pompeu Fabra University Barcelona, and the University of Warwick, I want to thank the Vrije Universiteit Brussels for organizing this solemn inaugural ceremony for the opening of the academic year 2023-2024, and for hosting us. A special thank goes to Rector Jan Dankert, Rector of VUB, to Karsten de Klerk, Chairman of the Board of Directors of VUB, Federica Mogherini, Rector of the College of Europe, and Sophia Eriksson Waterschot, Director for Youth and Erasmus Plus of the European Commission. Thank you all for your attention. Grazie a tutte e a tutti per la vostra attenzione. Dank jullie allen voor jullie aandacht.
Dank u wel. Mevrouw de voorzitter en rector Tiziana Lipiello, hartelijk dank voor deze woorden. No university alliance without the students. Of course, we have seen the number of 300,000 students. It's quite a number. They are represented by their EUTOPIA Student Council, and the council gathered in Lisbon last June. That's the moment and the place where we ask them what EUTOPIA means to them.
For me, EUTOPIA is really about getting a future where we are all connecting and we try to be the European University of tomorrow.
So EUTOPIA was a great opportunity for me to get to meet a very international and different and diverse network of students.
So they can share ideas, they can interact with each other, do critical thinking and actively engage in conversations that are really pertaining to the students across Europe.
United in diversity. I think it's very good that we have this type of inclusive environment in order to share our different experiences based on what countries we come from and what cultures we have.
It's nice to know the students from my university, but it's so much nice to meet other European students with different realities, but at the same time you all share a common value.
It's really great to see other cities, to speak with students what happened in Lisbon or Barcelona or Brussels.
I'm from Belgium originally, but I study in Gothenburg, and it's very nice to see the difference but also the similarities among our different cultural backgrounds and maybe cultural shock one might get by collaborating and working with each other.
I'm kind of hoping that in the upcoming years more and more universities will be included, especially from the part of Europe that are usually not so much included, like more poorer countries like the Balkan countries, the Eastern Europe and so on, not just the central and the western part.
Hopefully, I think in the future, in a couple of years, we can ask to invite the global partner students also to join us to get their perspective, how it works there.
As I go to the University of Warwick, for us, after Brexit, students felt left behind from the European community. So it's very important for us to stay close with our European counterparts, and EUTOPIA is a great way for us to keep this collaboration going.
European values are core for EUTOPIA, so we try to live by that, and it is also our guiding lights in all what we do.
In making European values really functional and really concrete, I think we need to work a lot, not only EUTOPIA, not only Kafovskaya University, but the whole European community, and but I think that we are on the good path to do it.
The good path, indeed. We will soon listen to the student representatives of the EUTOPIA Student Council, but first a few words of two student representatives of VUB Vrije Universiteit Brussel, the acting president of the Studentenraad, Meriem Negroes, and the president of VUB International Student Platform, Maya Metzger.
Hello everyone. On behalf of the International Student Platform, we're delighted to extend a warm welcome not only to the students and staff and also the student alumni of VUB this year, but also dear friends from the EUTOPIA network and all other guests here at the European Parliament. Being part of VUB isn't just about pursuing an education, it's really about joining a diverse and inclusive community that stretches across the borders and cultures as well. In fact, we proudly hosted students from 146 nationalities last year, and each of us really brings the unique perspectives and backgrounds, and together we can create something truly special. We're looking forward to the even closer collaboration with the EUTOPIA partners, enriching the students' experience with even more international opportunities. And with that in mind, I'm honored to introduce again to Mariam, the acting president of Student Council.
Thank you, Maya. Today, we embark on this exciting journey at our university. As students, we have the opportunity to explore new horizons, take risks, and embrace fresh experiences. Joining student associations, engaging in student policy, and daring to try new things will shape our time here. All these opportunities are the foundation of our personal and academic development. Let's seize every moment, take chances, and together craft unforgettable memories. And while usually the International Student Platform and the Student Council deliver a longer speech, we are happy to provide this opportunity to our colleagues from the EUTOPIA Student Council, Stephanie Mulder and Paula Duran.
Thank you very much, and remember this moment also during your student time. Indeed, Stephanie Mulder of VUB and le président de l'EUTOPIA Student Council, Paul Adrien Viala de CY Cergy Paris.
Beste studenten van de VUB, studenten van de VUB en de studenten van onze 9 andere EUTOPIA-universiteiten die er vandaag aanwezig zijn. Het laatste 1,5 jaar heb ik het genot gehad om nieuwe mensen te leren kennen, waarmee ik al een jaar samenwerk. En vorige maand hebben we nieuwe gezichten verwelkomd. Wij zijn van 20 studentenraadsleden gegroeid naar 30 studenten, een mijlpaal dat zeker erkend mag worden. One of the key principles of EUTOPIA is student-centeredness. As a student, we value that our voice is heard. The student's voice is a matter that is sometimes neglected by different institutions at different levels. We are often forgotten during decision-making for future plans regarding students at university, government, and global level. We as students need to fight for a future, but as policymakers, you need to take the fighting ground to us, as to give us a fair chance to let us speak our voice. This is something we as students, but also you as policymakers, can work on to create a better future and an educational policy for this generation of new students. A fundamental part of student-centered part of course, the students. Meeting the other students of the different universities was for me the most exciting and interesting aspect of EUTOPIA. Last year we all went to a restaurant to celebrate our first official student council meeting with students of each university being represented. I remember we were all talking in different languages, joining different conversations, and at one moment I was having 3 different conversations in English, French, and Spanish. And at one moment I noticed that one student was quite lost with all the different conversations because he could only speak English and a little bit of French. So we gave it a good laugh because, yeah, he was a bit confused, and then we translated the conversation. And that's when I realized how lucky I am to have the opportunity to learn multiple languages from a young age. We are such a diverse group in terms of languages among the students, and that certainly brings its disadvantages, but also its advantages. Multilingualism is part of the identity among the students, but also of EUTOPIA. Most people say that English is a lingua franca, but do we actually need one common language? Sometimes I have found that there's actually more miscommunication when we all speak English. Some meetings went more smoothly if we all switched to our native language or another language than English. So why not embrace multilingualism as a standard practice in daily life during meetings or official events instead of hiding it? We should be proud to be global citizens. Elke student aan alle universiteiten binnen EUTOPIA zijn wereldburgers die de boodschap van EUTOPIA kunnen delen aan de volgende studenten. EUTOPIA heeft nog veel potentieel om verder te groeien en nieuwe kansen te creëren voor studenten, onderzoekers en personeel. Deze kansen kunnen jullie als universiteiten zelf ontwikkelen, maar geef ook de kans om het aan de studenten zelf te vragen. Want soms liggen de nieuwe ideeën bij de studenten zelf. Dus durf als universiteit de vraag te stellen, want wij studenten bijten niet.
Thanks, Stephanie. First of all, I would like to clear I'm not this lost student who can only speak a little bit of English and French. So, so that's... So thank you, Stephanie, for all the work you've been doing as a former president of the Student Council. My name is Paul Adrian. I am the reigning president of EUTOPIA Student Council. And I would like to say that I agree with everything that has been said. And I would like to add a point. We are very lucky to work together as student representatives from the universities of the Alliance. And we are very happy because of all this diversity that we have. And this diversity that Stephanie talked about is really our strength, because everyone brings their own vision, everyone brings their own way to work, and also their own experience. And you can imagine it's very different given our very different backgrounds. No, I'm really sorry. I'm going to speak in French because we were asked to speak a little bit of our native language. So sorry for all those who doesn't master this beautiful language that is French. Donc, j'aimerais parler de la chance que représente Utopia pour nous en tant qu'étudiants. La chance de pouvoir apprendre à vivre et à travailler dans un monde interculturel. Donc, avec la mondialisation qu'on connaît, nos sociétés occidentales sont de plus en plus confrontées à des interactions avec des personnes ayant d'autres idées. On assiste au développement d'une diversité qui est aussi bien culturelle qu'ethnique, et nous apprenons chacun à travailler en communiquant les uns avec les autres. Je pense que cet exercice est très important pour façonner l'Union européenne dans laquelle nous allons vivre, l'Union européenne du futur. Et je pense que pour vivre dans une société équitable et en harmonie tous ensemble, on a besoin d'apprendre à travailler tous ensemble, comme nous le faisons au sein d'Utopia. Okay, back to English. I would like to take also this opportunity to address the members of the Student Council. In the Parliament, we are now in the heart of the European Union, one of the most important places in terms of political power for our union. So I would like to affirm our ambitions and our convictions. We talked earlier about the values of the European Union, and we want to give ourselves the means to make them shine and take on their full meaning, because it's very important for us as students. I would like us to commit our alliance to greater social justice and solidarity. And I would like to mark a more political turning point in our actions and initiatives. I would like us to use our mandates to transform Utopia and our respective universities by putting equity and inclusion at the heart of all our actions to fight exclusion within our university. Because like the chair like the chair talk, it's very important for our future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Dankjewel, Stephanie en Paul Adrien. Jullie hebben het woord opgeëist en terecht. Dat hebben jullie geweldig goed bijgedragen aan deze dag. Let's have a closer look at some examples of what Utopia can mean in practice. So here is Utopia in action.
2,000 billion, 1.8 trillion euros. It's a lot of money.
I'm a member of the Young Leaders Academy of Utopia, and so is Margit actually. And both of us are in the program, which means that we follow trainings, that we get a travel budget, and that we are involved in some meetings regarding Utopia as well.
I've met many colleagues in the different fields from those Utopia universities, which is great, and have nice discussions. And we have also have trainings from different universities organizing them, so that's been very useful.
Today we're part of a grant writing session, so we get training on how to write grant applications, especially for ERC, the European Research Council, but also more in general.
I'm involved as a promoter in a Go-to-Tel fellowship. This is together with Warwick University, and together with Warwick, Professor Amete Issa, we are currently guiding a Go-to-Tel fellow, being Evelyn Calderon Espinosa, now in her second year of her PhD. It's revolving around lung cancer and using chemistry actually to print 3D print scaffolds on which we can culture cells and everything. So it's a very nice and interdisciplinary project.
My role as a curriculum developer is really to work together with Rosette in the development of the learning communities that we have been working with over the past 3.5 years now.
It's kind of thematic networks where partnerships are developed across the EUTOPIA campuses. We have in fact identified 30 of such networks, 30 groups of people that work on the same thematic, following the principles of openness. That means that they are teaching and researching in a very open type of way.
And of course that and to wide what is that we have seen from, like, such as online exhibitions, student-led events, conferences, and so on. So there is a whole wealth, a richness that learning communities create, and as they do that, they enhance existing programs, but this of course doesn't mean that they don't go in creating new programs.
And this was also the intention of the European Union and of the European Commission. They are really interested in new formula that are open, that are inclusive, that are really allowing a bigger number of students and teachers to cooperate.
We propose that we can also look at the existing learning communities that exist and whether there are possibilities for them to emerge.
Today's meeting was about selecting new connected communities. We already had, in the previous project, we had learning communities, research communities, and the new thing we are now creating is connecting communities, so both having research and education in one thing. And so we have partners involved, both EUTOPIA partners and their global partners in the different connected communities.
I'm now learning and meeting so many more people and disciplines, so it's great. EUTOPIA is great.
The connected learning communities clearly play a big role in this EUTOPIA connection. So let's take a look at one of them, the connected learning community of artificial intelligence. And Professor Geraint Wiggins, Professor of Computational Creativity, can tell us what it leads to. Please welcome him.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my honor to lead the learning community in artificial intelligence within EUTOPIA. And I have some slides, which are not currently, there we are. I have some slides to show you. I hope you'll be able to see them at the back. What I'm going to do here is to try to tell you in just 4 minutes a little bit of the detail of the kinds of things we are going to do. So I'm going to focus in a moment on an international tournament, and I'll explain what I mean by that then. But first, just to look at what our activities currently are. We're focused on 3 things. The first one was a quick win, which we have already achieved. EUTOPIA-wide master doctoral seminars in network theory run from Cergy. This was a quick win because it can be done across the internet and very straightforwardly. A longer-term aim of our group is to deliver a modular course, an introduction to artificial intelligence, which is appropriate to many different programs, not just computer science programs, many different programs, and that has involved the design of a sub-modular system which allows us to tailor the material from our module to lots of different kinds of needs, lots of different kinds of deliveries, and in particular to allow the experts throughout the European EUTOPIA network to deliver material on their own speciality. So within such a course, of course, we have multiple topics, and those topics are specialized within different departments. So the specialists then can deliver the topics, and therefore the students get the best experts about each one of their topics. What I'm going to focus on more closely today is one part of that artificial intelligence course, which is a programming activity. We call it learning by gaming. And the idea, the older members of the audience may remember playing this way back in their teenage years. The idea is there's a game which is normally played by humans. We want a computer to play it, and our students have to write the code that makes the computer play it. The idea then is that the games can be played off against each other, and the students can compete in this way. This has been developed by our colleagues in Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona, and there is an online system which enables the students to share their software. They write their software, they upload it to a server, and then a tournament is played virtually in the cloud, and the students get to see the results. Those teams, maybe you can see there are 3 orange team boxes on the slides behind me. Those teams can come from individual departments, they can come from individual courses, and that's the way we're currently looking at it. But in future, we hope those teams will be spread between the institutions, so the students will be actively working together with other students from other universities. Once the teams have been put together, they make their software, they perfect it, they upload it, and then it goes into the tournament. So far, this has been rolled out in Barcelona, a safe test in the one location, and it worked very well. Last year, it was run in Barcelona at Pompeu Fabra and in the University of Ljubljana on a voluntary basis for the students because it was This year, we're hoping to do the same thing again, but with the addition of the Vrije Universiteit Brussels, where we will be running this program as part of our new Bachelor's in Artificial Intelligence. In future years, we will hopefully roll this out, not just within these 3 universities, but within the other universities within EUTOPIA, so that all of our students can work together on a common goal, which is a very relevant thing for artificial intelligence, building small programs which are capable of doing things which are normally requiring human-level intelligence. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Wiggins. The next connected learning community treats of urban education. Urban education, it is Professor Joost Vazen from the Multidisciplinary Institute of Teacher Education, giving us a word about it.
Dear audience, great schools for all, that's what we need. That sounds obvious, right? But achieving that ambition turns out to be not that easy. What is one of the issues? Large cities such as Brussels do not just concentrate economic wealth. Its populations are more often affected by poverty and featured by extensive ethnocultural diversity. Indeed, currently 75% of the inhabitants of Brussels has roots abroad, and Brussels is certainly not unique. Urban education ambitions to shift the lens from a too narrow view on classrooms as such to the interactions between schools and the urban fabric. Why? Because schools in urban areas are largely influenced by their environment and the living conditions of their students and families. And this interaction is of crucial significance for the development of urban schools and their students, and yet too often underexposed. Hence, urban education is precisely about schools that are located in dense metropolitan areas, that have a highly diverse population from an ethnocultural, linguistic, gender, etc. point of view, and that are endowed with limited resources such as technology and financial capabilities. It's clear that to answer complex urban issues, knowledge from different domains must be integrated. And in our learning community, we do so by joining forces across many walls. First, by bringing together experts from 6 different universities. Second, by building bridges between different domains, teacher education, educational sciences, geography, literature, graphical design, applied linguistics, and thirdly, by engaging staff, students, schools, and other societal actors. Our learning community roadmap includes 3 stages: the exchange of existing expertise, the co-creation of new pilot learning materials, and finally, the design of a new course. Obviously, we started with the creation of a shared framework, and we did so by developing a glossary with key concepts in order to speak the same academic language. Furthermore, we are exchanging expertise through field trips, such as you can see here on the slide, to a suburb of Paris, and through case studies. Our current phase consists of co-creating new pilot learning activities together with students, schools, and civil society actors. We tested some tools during a blended intensive program, the very first at my university, including interactive city walks. And oh yes, that involved an immersion in boxing, an activity that vulnerable youngsters in Brussels sometimes venture into. A second example of such a pilot program is the new school in the city, Scan. But it's on the next slide, there it is. Its ambitions to produce a photographic essay in theme through visits to schools and their neighborhoods in order to look beyond usual perspectives, focusing on learning opportunities for all pupils. And as mentioned before, our ambition is to co-create a blended EUTOPIA course to which we want to link action research to further develop evidence-informed education. To wrap up, some students and staff summarized their journey so far with just one single word.
Noi orizonturi.
Waarderend.
Stimulation.
Instructief.
Povezanost. Intercambi.
We're looking very much forward to continue this stimulating journey. Thank you very much. Hartelijk dank voor jullie aandacht.
Dank u wel, professor Joost Vazen. Utopia is much more than the sum of its parts. It can be a driving force of a new era, a renaissance in Europe, in Utopia. It is certainly something that the rector of VUB, Jan Dankaert, is aiming for. Jan Dankaert.
Utopia isn't a utopia.
Utopia nu este doar utopia.
Utopia n'est pas une utopie, mais une réalité.
Your Excellencies, dear partners of Utopia and VUB, dear fellow Utopia rectors, beste Belgische rectoren, ook beste directeur, dear students, colleagues and friends. Today, academia takes over politics. The hemicycle here resembles an auditorium, and that's maybe why we feel right at home here. Unfortunately, we cannot vote on important issues because the services of the parliament were smart enough to turn off the voting machines. If we cannot vote, we must agree. And we have to agree on important issues. And I do think you all agree that it's great to be here today. We are grateful to the hospitality of the European Parliament, its President, Roberta Metsola, and for the support of 2 members of European Parliament, Hilde Woutmans and Kathleen van Bremt. And I guess we all agree that the opening of an academic year together with 10 universities is quite symbolic. founding father of the European Union, Jean Monnet, said, "Nous ne coalisons pas des États, nous unissons des hommes." And that's what we are doing with Utopia. We are not just connecting universities. We are uniting students, researchers, scientists. And the same Jean Monnet said, "Rien n'est possible sans les hommes, mais rien n'est durable sans les institutions." And therefore, in a few minutes, we will sign a document with the 10 rectors that will give Utopia a legal basis and make it an institution. So Utopia is here to stay, across Europe and also beyond. And I totally agree with fellow rector Tiziana Lipiello. The genesis of the Utopia Alliance lies in our enduring belief in a unified European identity. So we all agree on the importance of the European dimension. We agree on the added value of Utopia, but I think we also agree on another issue, that we are living in times that are troubled, confusing, and challenging, that we are living a world in transition. My answer is that we need a new renaissance. In the following, I will use the more international pronunciation, renaissance. I'm not sure we all agree on that, but I will try to convince you of the need that we have today for a new renaissance. And I'm occasionally approached by colleagues who wonder what these European networks are actually for and what Utopia is for. What is its purpose? Why are we putting time and energy in it? My short answer is that Utopia lives up to a dream, the dream of Jean Monnet. A slightly more detailed answer involves delving into history, more specifically to the time of the Renaissance, to explain how Utopia can be part of a new Renaissance. The Renaissance was driven by 3 elements: curiosity, openness, and connectivity. Think Da Vinci, think Vesalius, think Erasmus. Together, those 3 elements, curiosity, openness, and connectivity, led Europe into a new way of thinking, turning diversity into an engine for the individual, intellectual, and societal mobility and growth. First and foremost, curiosity. The Renaissance was triggered by an enormous drive for new knowledge in philosophical, scientific, and the medical fields, and of course also in the arts. It is this curiosity, for example, that made translators move to Spain to translate hundreds of books from Arabic into Latin, or to Constantinople to translate books from Greek. And such ancient knowledge and new insights came together in European universities and created a kind of electroshock that shook Europe away out of the Middle Ages. The second element was openness. Those new insights from other civilizations could only flourish in places where there was a fertile ground, where there was openness to new and, yes, often heretic ideas. Des opinions hérétiques, ketterse ideeën. Fertile ground was certainly not found everywhere through the whole of Europe. It was mainly in those regions where the Inquisition had less to say that scientific progress was made. Firenze, Bologna, Padua, but also Saxony with Luther. And yes, even in Brussels, where Erasmus spent half a year in 1521. So only where thought was free, where free inquiry was possible, could new ideas flourish and could the Renaissance come about. The third condition for the Renaissance was connectivity. Thinkers, philosophers, writers, Erasmus and Thomas More traveled from England across Belgium to France and Italy. Contrary to popular belief, the group of Renaissance thinkers was relatively small and they knew each other quite well. They saw each other and debated new ideas and the social and political questions of the time. It's from such discussions that books like Utopia emerged, and dear friends, from Utopia to Utopia, it's only a small step. And at that time, there was also a revolutionary innovation that changed everything, the invention of the printing press. As a result, new ideas spread much faster than before. And perhaps we are witnessing something similar today with as one of the previous speakers, with the birth of AI and ChatGPT. But let's move on. 2 centuries after the Renaissance, the Enlightenment took place. Exactly the same conditions as during the Renaissance were present. Enlightenment thinkers looked with fascination beyond European walls and looked for knowledge in ancient Egypt, China, India, and in numerous other exotic places. That curiosity about the world was essential to our European Enlightenment. And the same goes for openness. The Enlightenment came about only in those regions and countries that were tolerant about new ideas. And while the Renaissance mainly started in the south of Europe, the Enlightenment emerged mainly in the north of Europe. Les Lumières, die Aufklärung. Connectivity was also required. Enlightenment thinkers went to live in places where they could express their ideas. Descartes and Spinoza lived close to each other. Thinkers discussed, books were exchanged. And without that connectivity, the Enlightenment would not have been the European upheaval that changed thinking across an entire continent and eventually the world. Connectivity, openness, curiosity, it all started with the Renaissance. Well, dear students, colleagues, and friends, that is exactly what we need to achieve today with our universities, with all our European partners, with EUTOPIA, a new Renaissance in Europe, because that is exactly what Europe needs. We see polarization and populist forces emerging everywhere, forces that question democracy, dismiss the emancipation of the individual, and ridicule science and scientists. Forces that subordinate universal human rights to their own tribal group ideas. No curiosity, no openness, no connectivity. Those forces are gaining ground, not only in Europe, but also around the globe. The rise of such closed and tribal thinking goes hand in hand with the building of walls. And walls go hand in hand with trenches. It is therefore urgent and necessary to formulate new ideas and arrive at new insights. And it is precisely by building new academic networks and rethinking the role of universities that we can arrive at a new Renaissance. We need a renewed curiosity and ways to challenge and to transcend boundaries. We must make more efforts to understand and learn from other cultures without prejudice. Let's build bridges to the east and to the south. Let's build bridges instead of walls and instead of trenches. We must not only defend our openness and tolerance, but also increase them. The polarization emerging all over the world pushes people too easily into one corner or another, into one camp or the opposite. Openness also means listening to opinions with which we largely disagree. And as my predecessor, the late Caroline Pauwels, used to say, always listen very carefully. Maybe the other is right. And we need to reinvest in connectivity to address our society's complex problems. The challenges that we face go beyond nations, languages, and cultures. To address them, we need to bring together nations, languages, and cultures. So we are lucky to have EUTOPIA. Every EUTOPIA member, every student, every researcher and staff member is at the same time in Brussels, Paris, Barcelona, Dresden, Gothenburg, Lisbon, Cluj-Napoca, Venice, Coventry for the University of Warwick. There's no Brexit in EUTOPIA. And isn't it telling that only 3 years after Brexit, the EU and the United Kingdom very recently reached an agreement on the UK's participation in Horizon Europe, the EU's research and innovation program. The British are back in Horizon Europe, and at EUTOPIA, they never left. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just give you 2 examples of how our EUTOPIA network can and will play a part in this new Renaissance. One is multilingualism, and the second is science diplomacy. First of all, multilingualism, and I welcome the Brussels Minister of Multilingualism. Few people will disagree with the fact that understanding, speaking, and writing several languages is an important asset for all of us, for every citizen. Multilingualism is all about curiosity, openness, and connectivity. It's also about embracing diversity and learning from others. Thinking in different languages is dealing with this topic from different angles in a kaleidoscopic world. If we want to learn from other cultures, chance and in the Enlightenment, multilingualism is essential. Unfortunately, today we are facing obstacles. Universities are under increasing pressure from conflicting policy agendas. On the one hand, universities are supposed to produce highly skilled and competent knowledge workers for a global economy with English as the language of international communication. On the other hand, universities are often perceived as national or regional flagships, where teaching in the national or regional languages is seen as an essential part of our identity. As a result, the educational language has become an ideological battleground. This is also the case in Flanders, the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium. We, as partner universities of EUTOPIA, believe that this battle between English and other languages is the wrong battle that leads us to battle. That's why we want to propose a different approach. An approach with multilingualism at its heart in what we call the nurturing of an inclusive linguistic ecosystem. An ecosystem that provides opportunities for speakers of different languages to use their own linguistic resources in the process of their learning. By the way, a couple of weeks ago, the Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, asked that co-official languages, as they are called, Catalan, Basque, and Galician, become official languages. It's another step, once again, towards more multilingualism. Es pas més cap a més multilingüisme. I potser no estic segur. És la primera vegada que es parla català en aquest Parlament des d'aquesta posició. I espero que no siga l'última vegada. For those... For those not speaking Catalan, I just said that it's maybe the first time. I'm not sure that Catalan is spoken from this stage, and I hope that's not the last time. En région bruxelloise où je vis, il est normal de parler plusieurs langues à la maison. La moitié des jeunes bruxellois grandit dans une famille multilingue. Hablar varios idiomas en casa es también lo que hacemos en nuestra casa, en nuestra familia. Y no somos una excepción, es el caso de la mayoría de las familias en Bruselas. Brussels is one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world, and we definitely should do more with the richness and the diversity here. All the living languages, all the living cities form a linguistic ecosystem whose power can and must be unlocked. Multilingualism is not a problem, certainly not in higher education. It's an opportunity. One of our partner universities, the Babeș-Bolyai University in Cluj-Napoca in Romania, has academic programs in more than 4 languages, Romanian, Hungarian, and German, because they are the historically spoken languages in Transylvania, and now, of course, also English. If this is happening at the Babeș-Bolyai University, it's happening in EUTOPIA. We are experimenting with multilingual pedagogies in a scientific way. We need to take down the barriers to multilingual participation in European education, training, and mobility. And we need to walk our talk. It's through multilingualism and through the connected communities of EUTOPIA that we will be able to learn from others from a deeper level. With a multilingual approach, we can unlock new ideas, new concepts, and new visions, and of course, a new renaissance. Ladies and gentlemen, let me go deeper now in the second tool that EUTOPIA has to help create the new renaissance, and that is science diplomacy. There are several dynamics that are profoundly changing the relationship between science and society. There are changes in how science is carried out. For example, the openness of data and the idea in general of open science. There are also changes in societal expectations and demands from society. For instance, regarding climate change and its solutions. At the same time, there is a growing distrust in science and scientists, and there are limitations to scientific collaboration, sometimes imposed by governments. Today, we are facing big challenges related to a world in transition. There is the Anthropocene with climate change. There is the abrupt digitalization of society, AI. There are geopolitical tensions. These developments not only impact the way we function as universities, but they also force us to rethink our values and to rethink our place in society. The global, the planetary nature of the problems that we are facing implies a major transition in the relationship between science and society. States cannot continue to use science and science policy merely to advance national interests and priorities, let alone regional interests. Today, there is a growing awareness that science has to serve global interests and humanity as a whole, planetary well-being. In this context of the growing entanglement of science and foreign affairs, it is in this context that science diplomacy is becoming more and more important. It's a kind of dialogue between two different worlds, the world of science and the world of diplomacy. And it consists of three principles. First of all, science in diplomacy. It's about scientific advice to the foreign policy community. Secondly, diplomacy for science. Here we are talking about joint governmental initiatives to facilitate international collaboration. Good examples are the Human Genome Project, CERN in Geneva, or, as we saw in the movie Oppenheimer, the International Atomic Energy Agency. And the third principle is science for diplomacy. This is about maintaining research collaboration between states, even if they are in a conflict. And I'm sure that Federica Mogherini, as former High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, has strong views on the roles of science in diplomacy, and we all look forward to your speech, Mrs. Mogherini. The idea of science diplomacy is now taking off in Europe, and I'm proud to announce here in the premises of the European Parliament that EUTOPIA has a work package on science diplomacy. We will not only give science diplomacy a firm academic grounding, but also make sure that each and every scientist in our alliance can act on a daily basis as a diplomat for science, as an ambassador for science. The world needs more scientific knowledge and collaboration to face the global challenges, and that's exactly one of the major aims of our EUTOPIA alliance. It's not a utopia, it's a reality. Dear students, colleagues, and partners, I hope that it's now clear to everybody why we are putting so much time, energy, and effort into this EUTOPIA European University. EUTOPIA is all about the values that are so needed today: curiosity, openness, and connectivity. EUTOPIA encourages each of us to start working on a new renaissance in Europe, connected to the East and to the South. EUTOPIA wants to play its role in a new era of global cooperation and scientific progress, and aims to make our world a better place for everybody. That's exactly what the new renaissance is about. And as our students said, EUTOPIA is not an utopia, it's now a reality. Thank you very much for your attention.
Shukran, Botondi, merci. Dank u wel, rector Jan Dankaert. We all know what to do now. We have to start a new renaissance. And I guess that it is very clear that today's ceremony is not only about the opening of the academic year, but it's also about the spirit of this unity. Here, unity in front of me, sometimes quite impressive. If I look around, thank you for looking around me. Transcends borders, it transcends languages, and it transcends cultures, and it makes me feel good, and I don't know about you. It's about the promise of a stronger Europe, thanks to the efforts of the European Commission and the European higher education institutions. among which the 10 universities of the Utopia Alliance. It's with great pride that now we are announcing the forthcoming signing of the statutes of Utopia VZW in the Belgian Dutch name stands for the International Non-Profit or Non-Profit. So after approval of all the relevant authorities of each country, this statutes of Utopia, this document will give birth to Utopia in an international legal entity of the Belgian law. I've just put the document here on the stand, and I will invite the representatives one by one to come and sign it. So let's not wait, and let's start with Professor Daniel David, Rector of Babeș Bolyai University of Cluj-Napoca. I also call Professor Jan Dankaert, rector van de Vrije Universiteit Brussel. And of course also Professor Tiziana Lipiello, rector of the Ca' Foscari University of Venezia. Followed by Professor Laurent Gatineau, président de la CY Cergy Paris University. We also call Professor Ursula Staudinger, Rektorin of the Technische Universität of Dresden. I call Professor Mette Sandhoff, Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Gothenburg. Ms. Sandhoff is representing Vice Chancellor Malin Broberg. I call Professor Gregor Majdic, Rector of the University of Ljubljana. Followed by Professor João Amaro de Matos, Vice Rector of Nova University Lisbon, representing Rector João Sagua. I call Professor Laia de Nadal, Rector of the Pompeu Fabra University of Barcelona. And I finally call Professor Stuart Croft, Vice Chancellor and President of the University of Warwick. Let me congratulate all of you, and let me congratulate you as a witness of this moment. Another very important moment. I am pleased to announce it is two visionary women who are going to take a stand here. And let's start with the floor, to give the floor to Sophia Eriksson-Waterschot, Director for Youth Education and Erasmus Plus at the European Commission. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dear rectors, students, staff and friends of the EUTOPIA member institutions, I must say it's a great, great pleasure to be the representative of the European Commission, to witness the opening of the academic year, and certainly also for this ceremony of the signature. It's quite an impressive opening, to say the least. And I must say that it reflects the EUTOPIA European Universities Alliance as being part of something bigger. As EUTOPIA, you are cooperating at a new level. We've seen it in the films, the videos, the witnesses, as 10 partners together to solutions to societal challenges, together to give students the best learning experience. So you are paving the way towards a new higher education landscape in Europe. So I would like to congratulate, first of all, EUTOPIA and all the member institutions for being part of this joint European transformative endeavor, perhaps transformative adventure sometimes. Now, you were at the start of the Erasmus Plus European Universities Initiative back in 2019. But I think none of us could have imagined, we could not have dreamt how huge interest and strong commitment that came with this initiative. All the innovative ideas and also all the enthusiasm that we witness. Now, the vision of the European Universities Initiative is about quality and competitiveness, clearly, firmly grounded in shared values. And we've heard many of the students saying exactly that. And it's based, of course, on a common strategy, which clearly EUTOPIA has developed, and also now more and more with an inter-university campus at its core. Across Europe, we now have 50 alliances involving more than 430 higher education institutions in total, and we cover as much as 35 countries. By next year, we will expand to come to at least 60 alliances, and we will have more than 500 higher education institutions. Now, the initiative is about taking transnational cooperation to the next level, to enable alliances to solve some of the big societal challenges, yes, and to equip students with the forward-looking skills that they need. And as far as I can see, and I have seen it beyond this meeting and this opening, EUTOPIA is doing just that. So your alliance is challenge-driven to prepare students and staff as European citizens and lifelong learners who actually care and act also for the future of the planet and for humanity. And we need so much universities in these times. We need universities to lead the way. We need universities to help tackling climate change, to succeed with the green and digital transition, to foster a more inclusive society, as reminded as our student representative, and to safeguard our shared values. And it is about building a better and more resilient Europe. It is about excellence, yes, but it is also about inclusion. And the inclusion aspect is central, and I know that EUTOPIA is active, very active in this field. This is perhaps also fundamental to remind ourselves in our democracies these days, and a good reminder when we find ourselves in this beautiful hemicycle of the European Parliament. Students and education are at the center of the European Universities Alliances. Thanks again for the witnesses that we've heard. And as a student at an EUTOPIA institution, you are not only a student at your home institution, you're actually part of the other 9 institutions as well. And with more than 35 years of Erasmus and more than 13 million participants so far, it is no surprise that student mobility is a central element of the European Universities Initiative. Actually, we have a very ambitious aim, 50% mobility. And this shows once again the level of ambition of the initiative. Of course, recognition should be given for these efforts, and I would therefore like to commend EUTOPIA for the so-called certificate that you have developed, the Certificate of Internationalization. So as a registered student in the Alliance, you will be able to complete this certificate and gain formal recognition of the international experience and competencies. This is very much in line with one of the flagships that the Commission pronounced in the European Strategy for Universities. This is our ongoing work towards a joint European degree, a truly European degree that will embody the European education area, that supports innovative joint programs that are delivered as part of transnational cooperation between several higher education institutions. Another flagship that will facilitate all this transnational cooperation is our work on a European legal status for alliances. And this is fully in line with the signing that we have just witnessed. And I would like to congratulate again EUTOPIA for this new legal status. I trust it can take your cooperation to the next level. Now, clearly, the European Universities Alliances are test beds for the future of universities. This is not a small task, but it is also what makes it so inspiring. And I think, Professor Lipiello, you said in the beginning of your speech, you referred to Vice President of the Commission Skinas, and it's so true, and I would like to mention it again. The European University Initiative is not a project, it is actually a transformative process. The European Commission is fully aware and very impressed by the work by EUTOPIA, but we also know there are many challenges. But at the same time, we rely on you to pave the way and find solutions, one of the solutions being the signature for a legal status today. As the Commission, we try to be there to support, to facilitate, ensure momentum, and encourage changes. Sometimes there are changes needed at national level, sometimes at regional level. So we are there to try to help to make it happen when it's needed. So with that, I wish the entire academic community at all EUTOPIA institutions a very fruitful and inspiring and knowledge-intensive academic year to the benefit of our common future. Many thanks.
Thank you, Madam Eriksson Waterschoot. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you the former High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. And now she is Director of the College of Europe, het Europa College, Federica Mogherini.
EUTOPIA não é uma utopia. EUTOPIA is keine utopia. Però è una realtà.
È una realidad. Es una realidad. EUTOPIA je realnost.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation, and first of all, congratulations for this very important signature. I have to admit it's very emotional for me to be here today. Because I think it's sort of 4 years since I last entered this hemicycle, and actually I guess that was my seat. But it's definitely the first time I'm speaking from this podium. And it's also the very first time I speak on the occasion of the opening of an academic year of another institution that is not the College of Europe. So I'm doubly humbled and honored for this wonderful opportunity. And let me tell you also something that probably I've never seen this MA cycle so full, which is wonderful. You will forgive me if I step back in my previous shoes for a moment, and I'm sure that my colleagues, my former colleagues, President Roberta Metsola would be so happy and pleased to see you sitting in the House of the European Democracy, and it's really It's really amazing, an amazing experience to see you all here. And I would like to congratulate the rectors for having this, the rector of the VUB and the other rectors gathered here this afternoon, for having had this wonderful idea of having this event in the Hemicycle. And also congratulate them on managing to get the Hemicycle, because I think it's one of the most difficult negotiations you can go through. For me, it is really also a little bit of an emotional moment, because even if the College of Europe is not part of EUTOPIA, I have been connected with this initiative as a rector of the College of Europe from the inception phase, not really the very, very beginning, but almost. And that is thanks to a wonderful woman that I would like to honor today, the late Rector Caroline Powells, that involved me in this with a lot of enthusiasm, as she always was, extremely enthusiastic about every project that she was involved in. And I would like also to use this opportunity for paying my own personal tribute to her memory, because she has been always a great support. So I know that the VUB is known to be a rather unconventional academic institution, and this is why I have decided to go the unconventional way. This is my keynote speech. But this is not only because actually I prefer to speak my mind without prejudging what I will be saying, but also because speaking as last of this ceremony, I wanted to hear, I wanted to listen to the other speeches and to listen to the ideas that were presented here, and I was very impressed. And so you will hear from me actually a little bit the continuation, I think somehow, hopefully, the logical continuation of the speech that the rector gave on the new Renaissance and the role of EUTOPIA in this. And I would take as a starting point the fact that I fully share everything that he has mentioned, and this makes my life much easier, Mr. Rector. Thank you for that. I would have two questions. I think the title of this event, of this opening, puts us in front of two questions. And I think they are very important intellectual questions, also political questions, that is very healthy to ask ourselves, I believe, not only in the academic community, but also broadly in the institutional environment and in society. The first one is if Europe is a utopia. And the second one is if the European Union needs a new renaissance. As you see, Mr. Rector, I try to narrow it down to the institutional level so that we don't overlap in the reflection, because I fully share your thoughts. To the first question, my answer is definitely not. The European Union, the process of the European integration has started as a utopian one, clearly so. But has proven to be, over decades and today, I think as strongly as ever, as an utopia that has turned into reality, and probably one of the strongest ones. The College of Europe, the academic institution I have the honor to lead now since 2020, is, I believe, the strongest demonstration in the academic field of this utopia turning reality. The College of Europe in Bruges started in 1949, before the European institutions even started their process. From a group of visionary men, very few women at the time, we're a large majority today, that were aiming at bringing together students from countries across Europe that were basically fighting each other only a couple of years before, and making them live together, not only study together, but live together. And the small group of visionaries that wanted to build the European institutions, to build the European integration. So much that in the statute of the College of Europe, we have a clear mission. And that is not an academic mission. It's somehow an institutional mission. The mission of the College of Europe still today is to contribute to the European integration. And this is why I feel so connected with this Alliance of European Universities, because this is exactly in small what we are doing every day in the College of Europe, to bring the communities, to connect the learning communities, as it was mentioned, on a daily basis, to make Europe live in an academic environment. But it started like this. It started as a utopia of having Europeans, rather than fighting each other, rather than fight interests, steel and coal, and then cooperating. And sharing interest was somehow the basis for stopping killing each other. Because if you share an economic interest, you have a strong incentive to avoid destructing your own interest, attacking the other's interest. So that was a very realistic, a very pragmatic, very pragmatic, not very idealistic, but very pragmatic approach of a visionary group that started in those years. And then it turned into reality, turned into institutional construction. Some might even say, even complex constructions from an institutional point of view. I don't believe so. I think complexity is good because it reflects the complexity of life, of societies, of diversity. And then the European Union integration process has faced a challenge, has faced a moment of crisis. I'll share with you a personal anecdote. In 2014, I was the foreign minister of Italy. And when the idea of having me as a high representative and vice president of the European Union, many around me in Italy were telling me, why should you do that? Are you sure? I mean, you are the foreign minister of a G7 country. Why should you get an impossible job where you have to mediate among 28 at the time? Complex, complicated, Commission, Council, Parliament. Why? I mean, the national way is much easier, right? Is labeled. I didn't listen. I listened, but then I decided otherwise. I never regret it, and I actually can tell you that were the most amazing 5 years of my life, professionally and from a personal point of view, obviously before becoming director of the College of Europe, which is the most amazing experience. But there was at the time, 2014, it was less than 10 years ago, there was at the time a need to explain, to make the case on why the European Union was relevant, why it counted. And it was not evident. It was not evident. Today, I think that we have gone through several crises, and all the crises we can imagine. The Eurozone crisis, the financial crisis, the so-called refugee crisis that I always say is a crisis for the refugees, much more for them for Europe. Brexit, the war in Ukraine, starting in 2014 and then continuing. Changes across the Atlantic that were not always making things easy on the transatlantic bond, and many other challenges, terrorist attacks on European soil, many different challenges, climate change. But here today, I think, not only in Belgium, but everywhere in Europe and beyond, I don't think we have to make the case anymore for why the European Union is relevant. I think this is quite evident. I think this is quite well understood, that we need that level of power, that level of engagement, that level of action to face and to have some chances of dealing with the challenges, because none of these crises we have gone through in the last 10 years can possibly be tackled at national level, not to mention below. None of them. And one of my favorite quotes is the one that goes actually we do not have big and small member states. We only have member states that have not yet realized that they are small in the world of today. I think that in these last 10 years, we got to understand, even to feel sometimes on our own skin, why we need the European Union. Then we still have a lot of debates, and here I come on the Renaissance, on how we use this level of governance, how the policies translate, what is the content of our being European Union. But the fact that we need to be together as a union, I don't think is in question anymore. And probably one turning point to that was indeed 2016. June 2016, the Brexit referendum, that you might remember, even the youngest ones in the room might remember 2016. In that summer, almost all commentators, academics, journalists, politicians in the institutions, many, not so much in the European Commission we were holding, but many, if not all, were thinking that this would have been the beginning of the end of the European Union, the beginning of the disgregation of our community. Many were thinking the UK is just the first one to leave, and then once they leave, others will follow. And look at us now. Not only today, the 10 includes, congratulations, a university in the UK, but today, no member state of the remaining 27 is seriously planning to leave the Union. I hope I'm not mistaken. Many criticize the European Union, and this is perfectly fine. This is the essence of democracy. You can be against the policies of the Union currently taken, but no one is currently actively planning to leave. Why? First of all, the deterrence effect, I believe. We've seen how messy it was for the United Kingdom. If it was messy for them, imagine for us, better not to go there, I think. But I think there is another element to that. I think that we have gone through crises in these last 10 years that have shown us that without the being together in the Union, we wouldn't have literally sometimes survived. Think of the COVID crisis. Think of the financial crisis even before that. Think of the war in Ukraine. And imagine these scenarios without the European Union existing. COVID would have killed many, many more people than it has. And I speak as an Italian here, saying that it killed here, saying that. But without the European Union, we wouldn't have had protocols, vaccines, research. And the Commission has extended its competencies, rightly so. We've managed to be creative, to break taboos. I still say we, because I think that the European institutions still belong to all citizens. The European Union has managed to act courageously with three elements that normally are not recognized as the main features of the European Union. United, fast, and impactful. Without the European Union, during the COVID years, many of our citizens, many more of our citizens would be would have been killed. And we wouldn't have managed, probably, to recuperate, to restart our economic and social activities as we have. Still difficult, but we have an instrument that is impressive today. Breaking, by the way, a taboo. Just a few months before, just a few weeks before the decision on Next Generation EU, nobody would have ever told you that it would have been possible for the European Union to borrow money on the markets using the budget as a guarantee. And it happened. So that was also another taboo. Act creatively and go beyond the self-imposed borders sometimes. But also take the war in Ukraine, the Russian aggression against Ukraine, the invasion. What would have happened without the European Union in place in February 2022? My guess is that probably the NATO countries would have been still secured, but wouldn't have we started to maybe split and be, somehow exposed to the Russian favorite exercise, which they learned probably from my ancestors, the Romans, divide et impera, trying to start and pick divisions and create alternative alliances. The previous European wars, the previous wars were all seeing Europe divided. Without the European Union, we might face today a similar situation, especially if you think of the interests, economic and energy interests that we had at the time of the invasion. So the European Union has protected us, has guaranteed our daily lives as they are, our health, our safety, our economic prosperity, our rights, in a way that was maybe unforeseeable before, has been tested, and the test has given us a good result. The European Union is capable of acting united, fast, and in an impactful manner when it's needed. And this is, for me, a reason for pride, but also a little bit of worry, because the European Union is great, has proven to be great. It was not a given. It was not a given. Has proven in confronting challenges and responding to acute threats, I would say to existential threats, like COVID, like the war in Ukraine. But in times of calm that we've not experienced in the last 10 years, but hopefully they will come at one moment, are we equally able to sustain this trend? Are we equally able to act as a superpower for ourselves, which doesn't mean for ourselves against the others, for ourselves a cooperative power, also in the world, in times where our existential values or our existential interests or our lives are not challenged, are not threatened? Are we able to sustain this trend over time? Or do we constantly need crises and challenges and threats to show unity and strength? This is why I believe we need a new renaissance, on which, at the beginning, I was a bit perplexed, because a renaissance, especially for an Italian, implies that the time that comes before is the Middle Age. And we're not living the Middle Ages of the European Union. We are living good times. So much that, yes, we're 27 today, but we have many others that want to join. And who knows, maybe the 28 one day will want to join back. But now I'm free to say these things. It's beautiful. But I think that we do need a new renaissance, exactly because we have proven to be strong and united and impactful in times of existential threats. But we cannot live in a permanent crisis mode. We need to be able to live this strength as the normal, not as the extraordinary, and to recognize the power of Europe beyond the crisis, the existential threats that we need to face. We need to get to the point, and I hope that this is going to be the result of the new Renaissance, to get to the point where we recognize the value of being a European Union, not because it's saving us from death, but because it's good to have. That we recognize this good. We don't need a war, we don't need a pandemic to recognize that it's good to be together. And this is, I think, the next step that we need as a new Renaissance. How we consolidate this strength. I guess that each of us in this room might have his or her own answer to this. How do we do this? How do we enter this Renaissance, this European Renaissance, this sort of jump in this transitional time to make the good the norm, to make the recognition of the good of the European Union the norm? My answer, my personal answer that I have seen comforted a lot hearing carefully at the State of the Union speech of President von der Leyen in the same hemicycle in Strasbourg a few weeks ago, is the combination of reforming the Union internally and completing the unification of our continent. This is, for me, the combination of factors that will constitute eventually the European Renaissance we need. The deep reform inside to get ready to be not only 27, but 30 plus member states, and to enlarge our union. Not to union, I don't like the word, to complete our union. And this means preparing for the future Europe. This means preparing for the next steps of the European Union integration. I think as centers of knowledge, research, network, as academic institutions, we have, I think, a responsibility, a big responsibility. That is not only to do what EUTOPIA is doing today, connecting an alliance, creating networks that go beyond the already extremely successful Erasmus program, of which I am a proud alumna, not only connecting our academic institutions, we need also to, inside each of our academic institutions, prepare the generations that will manage to lead this new renaissance for the Union. That is the challenge. Are we equipped with human capital that is ready for that challenge? Because if you think of transforming and transforming the Union and completing the unification of our continent, you need to reform, basically review, reform, call it how you want, basically all different elements of how the European institutions work today, from the budget to the foreign policy, or the institutional dynamics, or agricultural policy, cohesion policy, you name it. You take basically the entire DGs of the Commission and you just go through each of the policies and look into that. Are we equipped? Are our new generations equipped to have this critical approach without transforming the critical approach into a disruptive approach? Are we able to marry, to connect the recognition of the good of being in a union together with the critical approach to every single policy we have in place, without losing the awareness that it's good to be together? This is, I think, the challenge we're called to face. And I think that the universities of Europe, the academic institutions of our continent are ready to take this responsibility and to form generations of leaders that will lead us through a new renaissance of our continent. And not only working on creating a learning community, not only transferring knowledge or research, but mainly, and also, not mainly, also, working on the empowerment of a generation, working on the self-confidence, working on the inclusivity, working on the diversity of the pipeline that leads to the institutions, which is something on which we have to have a little bit of self-criticism. The institutions are very white, a little bit too white, and universities too. This is one of the challenges we will need to face. How do we transform through the academic work, through the academic societies? How do we transform the pipeline that feeds the institutions so that they can lead the transformation of a renaissance? Empowering a generation that doesn't just study, in our case, in the college, European studies, but also lives Europe, lives the international multicultural dynamics of being together, and by that manages to build an inclusive community, a knowledge community to shape the future of the European Union. This is why I feel very much empathy and synergy with the idea of working on a European Renaissance, so much that actually a couple of years ago, when we were redefining the brand somehow of the college, that never changes, but the motto of the College of Europe, I decided to highlight this element. And now the College of Europe is, or at least likes to be recognized as the laboratory of the European Renaissance. So we had the same idea together, and I think that this is not by coincidence, because indeed I think that this is what we're doing. In EUTOPIA, in the college, in many other universities around Europe, with the support of the European institutions, to create an empowered new generation that is able to shape the renaissance of our continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Federica Mogherini, Rector of the College of Europe, the Collège d'Europe. Our ceremony is nearly coming to its end. We still need to declare the new academic year officially open. And to do that, we will first listen to the Chair of the Board of VUB, Karsten de Klerk.
Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. Excellencies, colleagues, students, friends of VUB. Imagine just one moment the joy of Friedrich Schiller if he would have known that his famous words would have been the symbolizing of a united Europe. And in this context, please allow me for a small personal emotion I'd like to share with you. My family comes from a city close to Friedrich Schiller's village. It's called Marbach. It's in Baden-Württemberg in Germany. And my mother and my uncle attended the Schiller Gymnasium in that city. So I think it's fair to say that the Ode an der Freude has always accompanied and inspired me. I'm therefore extremely happy to pronounce these words here in this hemicycle. Ladies and gentlemen, we have witnessed today the legal creation of EUTOPIA, our network of European universities, connecting connected communities. This is the way forward, ladies and gentlemen, because united we stand. The dream of Schiller, of Jean Monnet, and so many others is no longer a dream, it's a reality. Et c'est ainsi avec Utopia, qui est devenue une réalité. À la VUB, nous sommes convaincus que le rassemblement des étudiants au-delà des frontières nous donne la force et la puissance de combattre les polarisations que nous vivons aujourd'hui. We leren onze studenten verder te kijken, tolerant en respectvol te zijn voor elke eerlijke overtuiging. Eerlijk in woord en daad. Vrij van vooroordelen of fanatisme. Laat ons dat werk samen verder zetten, collega's, beste vrienden. Distinguished guests, I'm already going to stop my speech here. Let me finish, please, with this plea that we've heard before, the plea for a new renaissance. It's also the plea for a better world, where one day all peoples will be brethren. They will be connected, and they will be spanning the entire globe, just like Schiller imagined it. Thank you very much. Enjoy the cocktails afterwards, and enjoy the fact that there are no more speeches.
Karsten, may I please ask you to stay with us? Thanks for the promise of the drinks, but we have something really important to do before we do that. You forgot that one. I'm inviting you to come just in front of the desk, and you will be joined by the rector of VUB and by chair of EUTOPIA, Tiziana Lipiello, to announce a very precious few words that are pronounced every year.
Academiejaar 2023-2024 voor geopend. The academic year 2023-2024 open.
And meanwhile, as you can see behind us, but you can take a step forward, you know, you don't have to. You're not in the bus, you're not in the second row. Come and color this hemicycle. And as a tradition, they will be singing together. It will be in Dutch, and you will be able to read the translated version in English, but it will not be sung in English. I'm sorry, they didn't practice that. So, so I think they are ready for Lied van geen taal.
Brusselse studenten van de Kouwaard en de Gus, strijden wij voor vrijheid steeds getrouw aan onze lus. Roemberuchte rolders blijven wij, rolders blijven dood, de schrik van de kalot. Ja, 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 glorie, glorie, halleluja. Brusselse studenten van de Kouwaard en de Gus. Glorie, glorie, halleluja, getrouw aan onze lust. Hij die het licht niet kan verdragen der Gentaalse zon, hij wezen een kaloot of een bekrompen Frans kion. Moet maar zien dat hij in onze weg niet komt te staan, of het zal hem slecht vergaan. Ja, 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 glorie, glorie, halleluja. Brusselse studenten van de Kouwaard en de Gus. Glorie, glorie, halleluja, glorie, halleluja, getrouw aan onze lust. Vier dragers van de fakkels van de VUB dragen we in de wereld en doorheen heel Vlaanderen mee. Onze wil tot leven vrij van dwang en levensvrij, geen talers blijven wij. Ja, 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 glorie, glorie, halleluja. Brusselse studenten van de Kouwaard en de Gus. Glorie, glorie, halleluja, getrouw aan onze lust. Vive de Gus!
Yes, please stay seated. Please stay seated for just one more moment. I saw some timidity for some people to sing this in this hemicycle. It's a fantastic experience. Thanks for the people organizing this precious moment. Thanks also to the European Parliament for having us here, and thanks to everyone who contributed to this ceremony. May I ask you, maybe a little practical thing. I believe every one of you has received this preloaded wallet, a VUB card, digital card, I think. Good for 4 drinks and for snacks and a dessert, so you know how much you can have. And but what is more special to say is that there are specialities from all the different countries of Utopia. So bon appétit, that will be delicious. Before we invite you to go there, and there is the Museum of Natural Sciences, where we will all be going. I would like to ask you to stay seated for just a few more moments, and I would like to invite the rectors of the universities of Utopia to take the lead, and they will all follow you. Have a very nice day, and congratulations.
Nous vous souhaitons une très bonne nouvelle année académique, où que vous soyez en Europe, ou que vous soyez en Utopia.
Eu desejo a todos os estudantes de Utopia ótimo ano académico de 2023-2024.
Jag önskar alla studenter vid Utopia universitet ett fantastiskt akademiskt 2023-2024.
Dragi studenți, să aveți un an academic nou foarte interesant și plin de împliniri, mai ales în ceea ce privește devenirea voastră parte a comunității academice UBB și Utopia.
Care studentesse, cari studenti, vi auguro un anno accademico ricco di soddisfazioni e nuove avventure all'università e anche fra di voi, nella vita sociale.